Hi, friends. Well, when you walk away, this happens. You know, I know for us empaths, it's harder to do certain things sometimes because of our nature, right? It's just the way we are. But there comes a point, or there will come a point at some point in your lives if you're that type of person. And you don't necessarily have to be an empath, okay? This applies to anybody. It all goes, based on whatever upbringing you had and all kinds of different types of childhood trauma that you may have had that you haven't healed from it yet. But it's funny how, and also ironic, when you walk away from certain people, situations, environments, scenarios, especially if it's been something that you've been a part of it for like years, decades sometimes. You know what's one of the first things that people do when you walk away? They judge you. Every single person is going to judge you. And they will most likely not tell you, especially if you chose to walk away and detach, which is the right thing to do. And a lot of times, based upon, you know, all kinds of things, sometimes you just have to detach from everything and everyone. And yeah, but that's what happens when you do that. People, they will judge you. They will start like picturing, making this whole fictional story in their minds about you. But they never really truly knew you in the first place to begin with. But that's what I call the mirror effect that people have on each other, right? So they will cling to all these things that you had about you that they weren't capable of having in themselves or awaken in themselves. It's not that they don't have it, they just refuse to acknowledge that for whatever reason. That's going to be due to their own issues and traumas and whatever. And but they will judge you. They will paint, right, picture all these what if scenarios in their minds. And usually what's going to happen is they will shift the blame on everything on on you or something else other than themselves because they refuse to acknowledge that a huge part of why you did what you did was because something just wasn't working out for you, and at some point you figured out that it just wasn't worth it anymore. So growth looks like letting people assume wrongly about you, okay? Knowing that the little fictional story in their minds is more about their fears and insecurities than your own reality. And that's so true. You're not going to have to perform to the right people. You will talk and they will just listen to you. This is just basic common sense stuff. Because when you choose to live your life truly as your true self, when you're finally aligned, then you're going to start attracting the right type of people into your life, the right type of situation, experiences, environments, job related stuff, everything. Everything falls into place. And you don't have to chase any of that stuff. That's the other thing. People need to learn to stop chasing things and seeking for external validation. That's one of the biggest mistakes that everybody keeps doing throughout their whole lives. The whole time. The whole time. You could say it's almost human nature, which it isn't, but it feels that way because of years of conditioning and programming that we were subjected to, heavily subjected to. You don't need any of that stuff. Everything you need is inside you. Everything you need is within you. You really need to sit with yourself and think about that deeply. Meditate on it if you have to. Whatever it takes. Until you understand that. Because this is how it is, you know. And here's the thing. When you finally choose to walk away and detach from things that were no longer serving you, you're doing something that is basic human stuff. You're looking out for yourself because nobody outside of you is going to do anything for you. That's the other thing you need to realize. You're the only person who can rescue yourself from situations like that. Pull yourself out of it. Stop questioning yourself when things like this come up. You know your worth, you know your value, you know who you are. I don't, you do though, right? You know yourself better than anybody. And that's never going to change. You don't need someone to tell you that. You already know. So if you're living something that it just doesn't feel right somehow, you should really start asking yourself or looking at it more deeply, comb through it, write it down if you have to, do some sort of journaling, whatever, to see what is it that feels out of place in your life. What is it that feels wrong? It could be one thing, it could be a couple of things, it could be a bunch of things, it could be everything. That's the other thing. For a lot of people, it's going to be everything. You know? For a lot of people, it's going to be everything. But but the natural response most of the time is going to be you're not going to acknowledge that. You're going to deny it. That's when denial, fear, doubt, all these things, all these factors, emotions, feelings are going to kick in because the psychological aspect of yourself that a lot of people call ego, it can have many different names and the semantics don't matter. What matters is, do you think that those parts of you are going to want to be gone or are going to allow themselves to just die off like that on a whim? That's not going to happen. They're going to fight for survival. And then the other thing is, these things are a part of you no matter what. You can learn how to handle them and deal with them, understanding how the whole process is. But for the most part, they're always going to be there. You're not you without them. You know? That's how it is. But most of us, we live by these parts of ourselves that they're not really looking for what's best for you. Ever. All they care about is them continuing to being around and controlling all these aspects of you that you are not in charge of right now. And once you flip the game around, ooh, wow, there's a big snake going by here, guys. Check it out. Okay, don't worry about me, bud. Hey, there's no need for staying there. That's crazy. Chill out, bud. I'm doing my video here. Uh, wow. I'm not, a threat to you, okay? So you can just keep going, move along. Yeah, I'm not a threat to you at all. I don't know why you're staring at me though. So, yeah, damn, I lost my line of thought with this snake going by here. Um, what was I saying? Yeah, I was talking about the ego and how we let it control our lives. And yeah, I guess I'm gonna close it here. I think I said what I had to say. We're already about 12 minutes in. Because this snake is just staring at me here, and I guess it doesn't want me to be here. And I'm not gonna mess around with the snake. Not that I'm afraid of it though, but I understand that I have to respect its space too. So, yeah, guys, um, I'm gonna let this one end here. I love you all. Keep on loving yourself. And I will catch you all next time. You can say goodbye to the snake here. I'll leave you alone now, pal. Alright, guys. I'm gonna turn this off. I'll catch you next time.